Babe of the day. Babe of the day. Jane Seymour. What is it about Jane Seymour? I'm just completely enamored with her. For one thing, it took until she was 70 for her to even show signs of aging, and she still looks great. Jane also has the sexiest kind of British accent. Publicly, she has a likable personality. It helps that she's also a really good actress with a long list of varied roles. She's been everything from a Bond girl to a doctor in the Old West. One opinion of mine, anyway, is that she always looked good, even when she was young. But I think that her looks even just improved as she got a bit older. I mean, she just kept looking better the older she got, throughout the 1970s and throughout the 1980s. That's my opinion, anyway. But she always was a good-looking woman. And that's rather unusual that somebody gets better looking with age, but I think so. And one thing that I didn't even realize, for years, is that she has heterochromia, which is a color variation in the eyes. If you look real closely, you'll notice that her right eye is brown and her left eye is green. It doesn't seem to detract anything for me. Her real name is not Jane Seymour. She took that stage name after the English Queen, Jane Seymour, because at the time she just thought it seemed more marketable. And she was right, it worked for her, because whenever you hear the name Jane Seymour, I don't think most people think of the English Queen. I think they think of the actress. To me, Jane Seymour always seemed to have that kind of poise or elegance. She just seemed very dainty to me, like she could have been a ballerina at one point. And a long time ago, when I was doing research on her, just because, I'm a fan, I like her, I found out that she actually was a ballerina. She began her formal dance training when she was only 3 years old. And by the time she was 13, she actually made her professional debut with the London Festival Ballet. So that would kind of explain, how she moves like she does, or just how she carries herself. Which I always think is just very, in my opinion, the more ladylike a woman is, the more appealing she is. She also has a very kittenish look. She really does look like a kitten or something. I mean, it's very cute. She's got a cutesy sort of look. And what I think is funny is that years later, when she did the film Wedding Crashers, in 2005, her character actually went by the nickname Kitty Cat. I thought, oh my God. So somebody finally caught on to that. Now, when she played the psychic Bond girl Solitaire in the movie Live and Let Die, it wasn't the first big role that she had. It was her breakout international performance. She had been acting in England for quite a while. One thing is watching Live and Let Die, Dr. Kananga, the villain of the movie, he's always mean to her, throughout the whole movie. Even when they were on good terms, he's just terrible to her. And you're watching that movie and you just hate that guy. You just like, oh, I hate that Dr. Kananga so bad. How can you be picking on Solitaire like that? She's such a nice girl. Oh. He gets his in the most glorious fashion, by the way. So, but her actual first film appearance, it was just a very small, uncredited bit part in a 1969 film. But by the next year, she had already gotten her first major film role in a war drama called The Only Way. And her acting career just seemed to have a meteoric rise right from the start. She didn't lag like some actresses, they take years and years to get noticed or really established. But with her, she took off rather quickly. In 1972, she got her first major role in a TV series on the BBC called The Onedin Line. And it lasted till 1973. And basically what the show was about, it was a fictional shipping company in the later 1800s. And sort of a drama, sort of a soap opera kind of series. But by 1973, she already got the Bond movie Live and Let Die. And then from there on, it just seemed to just get even better and better. In 1975, she actually played Princess Farah in a Sinbad movie called Sinbad and the Eye of the Tiger. It wasn't released until 1977 because it took so long for the stop motion effects to get done with it. Back then, special effects were what they were. So it took a lot longer for them to come up with a cruder product. But that's a very sexy look, too, in her little Arabic, princess costume. And then in 1978, she played a character named Serena in the film of Battlestar Galactica, and then later in the first 5 episodes of the TV series. I know a lot of people were upset when her character got killed off. And then in 1980, she did one of my favorite things, is Oh Heavenly Dog. And it was a Benji movie, but kind of a different Benji movie. It's not the traditional Benji movies. Basically, Chevy Chase plays a character in there who ends up getting killed, and then he comes back as Benji the dog throughout the whole movie. And then basically, you hear Benji's thoughts, and it's Chevy Chase's voice. And he becomes enamored with, Jane Seymour's character. And the one thing, when I first saw that movie many years ago, I was so upset because, it says I've always liked Jane Seymour forever. And at the end of the movie, Jane Seymour's character gets killed. And you think, oh my God, this ruins the whole thing. But it was kind of cute because at the very end it showed her coming back as a cat. Once again, that little kitten reference. So I must not be the only one that sees that. But I thought that was so cool that she comes back as a cat to meet Benji. And also in that same year, she did a movie with Christopher Reeve called Somewhere in Time, which was a rather unique sort of romantic fantasy story. And in that movie, Christopher Reeve played a playwright who hypnotized himself into going back into the year 1912 because he was just infatuated with a picture of Jane Seymour's character, who was actually an old-time actress. And in that movie, that she actually started her friendship with Christopher Reeve, and she remained friends with him for the rest of his life, right up until the very end. In 1981, Jane did a TV film called East of Eden, and it was based on a John Steinbeck novel. And in this movie, she was actually a bad girl. She played the antagonist, Kathy Ames. Now, I don't know about you. I don't really like seeing her as a bad girl. Personally, I'd rather see her in the good girl parts, the likable parts. But she did a good job with it, and so much so that she actually got a Golden Globe for it. So good for her. But still, just the same, classic Jane Seymour to me, she's got to play a likable character. In 1984, she did a movie with Tom Selleck called Lassiter. And the movie was about a jewel thief. It was a jewel heist movie set in 1939. And she appeared nude in it, which you think, okay, that's going to sell a lot of tickets or whatever. However, the film flopped hard. It did not do very well at all. And it's not one of those kind of movies that, well, it didn't do well at the theaters, but later on it becomes a cult favorite. No, it's pretty much just a forgotten movie. Don't know how between Tom Selleck and her, you think, yeah, there has to be an audience for it somewhere, but no, it just didn't do very well. And she just continued working. I mean, she never really stopped working. But the next real big thing would have to be the TV series Dr. Quinn, Medicine Woman. It was a rather unique Western series. It has to be for a Western to make it, because after so many decades of Westerns on TV and movies, it had to be kind of different to make it. And that one actually did. She was a doctor in the Old West. Woman doctor, English accent. I mean, it was a rather unique setup on a lot of different levels. It ran on TV from 1993 to 98. CBS canceled it, and there was a big uproar when that show was prematurely ended. People were so mad. It was just like when they canceled the original Star Trek series many years earlier. Fans were just that upset with it. And they actually brought Dr. Quinn back for a couple of TV movies through 2001. But Jane Seymour always rather liked doing the Dr. Quinn show. She never really wanted it to end, especially not as soon as it did. And then after 2001, 4 years later, she had her part in the Wedding Crashers movie, which, even though it wasn't like a major role, it was a pretty significant supporting role in it. And I will tell you right now, in my own personal opinion, I know a lot of people like the Wedding Crashers movie. They're probably going to be mad at me for saying it, but I just don't think that movie was that good. I think the movie was extremely overrated. I just didn't really care for it. I didn't see the novelty for it or anything. But Jane Seymour's part was absolutely excellent. She played the oversexed married woman, and she kept going by the name, nickname Kitty Cat all the time, Kitty Cat. And that was funny. I like that movie for her part. The rest of the movie's like, I don't want to say it was a bad movie by any means, but it says I thought it could have been funnier. I don't know overall, but her part was hilarious. She was good at it. And it was rather unusual for her because she never really played a character like that before. Like I said, she's generally pretty ladylike in all of her movies, which is why you like Jane Seymour. In this one, she was just a real sleaze character. Assembling this slideshow was a lot of fun because she has so many good looks. I mean, she looks good fully covered, partially covered, whether she was younger or whether she was a little bit older or whether she's middle-aged, or even when she's a senior. There's a few pictures in here where she's already a senior, and I bet you didn't even notice which ones. Thank you very much for watching. I hope you've enjoyed this tribute to Jane Seymour. She's always been a favorite of mine. I hope she's a favorite of yours too. If for some reason you weren't familiar with Jane Seymour before, I can't imagine why, if you're if you're even a subscriber one step past. But check out her work and see what all she's done. Thank you very much and have a great day.